So we still got a lot of people in this stream, and so that's cool.
Props to Neon Cactus, R.I.P.
Man, that is really depressing, dude.
I know. It's an institution at Purdue, man. Thursday night, everybody went there. Sad.
I mean, I wonder if so Harry's is like, like a kind of like, 4 in, 4 out kind of policy, right? 2 in, 2 out. It's
they're like the only bar. I mean, where else, I guess, too, but I don't know. Harry's is like the only. I guess Brothers is still there, but
yeah. But I mean,
running out of bars. Jake's is gone. Cax is gone. The Yacht Club's gone from your day.
Yeah.
The Yacht Club closed like in the middle of my freshman year.
So you never really, or you might have went, but
yeah. I went once. Remember Charlie Ball, Chuck Ball, the Fiji?
Yeah, he plays tennis. Dane May's really good friend.
San Diego, yeah. Charlie Ball was bouncing and let me in. So.
He was bouncing?
He was bouncing at the Yacht Club. Yeah. He let me in. I was 18. I was only there for like 30 minutes. I don't know why I didn't stay very long. Actually, I might have been with Dane, the man, the myth, the legend.
Okay, Kramer says, can you see me? Oh, here we go. Yes.
We're live. Let's go.
We've got it.
So, yeah, you can't use mobile devices, and you can only use Chrome and Firefox. So, all right, that's cool. Nice. Chris, good to see you, man.
Good to see you. I like the little haircut you got going there, bro.
Chris Bryan. With a mullet. Chris Bryan with a mullet.
I wish I had Chris Bryan money.
Professional in the front, party in the back.
That's true.
Jesus. Well, good, man. I'm glad we got you on. So you got the Moscow shirt on.
Man, it's something I picked up over there, just
Why would you wear that, man?
Just for you. It's your favorite place. I know it. I know you love Moscow, everything about it. It was probably the best place.
Big fan. Yeah, big fan.
So a couple announcements before we get started. I don't know if you guys saw Painter's email or are on the JPC email list at all from a athlete perspective, but if you guys are familiar with what's going on at Purdue in the Purdue Day Giving campaign on September 9th, there's a cross department challenge. I don't know if you guys knew this, but where you can go in and donate. I've already done it, but you go in, donate, select your donation, and then you can actually tie it to a program. And I guess there's a race between the athletic departments and athletes and donations to those organizations. I guess just athletes to see who raises the money. So basically the moral of the story is we're going to lose because Drew Brees is going to blow us all out of water. But
you got to get big guard to get in here.
Yeah. but put that on your calendars. That is a specific day. It's called Purdue Day Giving, September 9th. It's all focused around the Purdue for Life Foundation, which is an integrated advancement organization that brings together several associations on campus. So just for you to know, Chris, I don't know how much you know, but it's called Purdue for Life. It encompasses Purdue Alumni Association, the University Development Office, President's Council, John Purdue Club, and the Alumni Lifetime Learning Programs. And Matt Folk leads. He's really the CEO, I guess, of Purdue for Life Foundation, a really big advocate of RootShare, and he reports right into Mitch Daniels. So it's called Purdue for Life. Please go. The More Than a Game campaign was launched about around the same time when we launched the Baby Boilers event. The campaign serves to raise funds to offset Purdue athletics budget that in some cases could exceed or reach $50 million. It'll support everyone from minimize sport elimination to job elimination and anything in between. So if you guys can go and if you guys can spread the word on your social media and everything else, go to jpcmortonthegame.com or call the John Purdue Club office. Phone number 765-494-CLUB, which has been around even when I was there, guys. So very special event for us tonight. It's our second event on RootShare. It's with Chris Kramer. I think it's going to be awesome because, Chris, you're at a sweet spot where you saw a lot. You saw Painter's first years, which were a little bit there's a lot of turmoil, especially coming off of the previous year or two that I had with him, and you kind of building a new foundation for the university. So I think there's a lot of credit to be had for Carl, Teague, and myself, who are always working our asses off. And obviously Carl was a pro, but we went through a lot during that time. And but you and Keaton were just next level starters from day one, basically. And the amount of discipline and trust and everything in between that you guys brought helped us get to the NCAA tournament that first year before Robbie and them came. So, I think the way to start is talk to us about, your high school experience, and then, how you were recruited both from other institutions, and then obviously which coaches were really following you from a Purdue aspect, and go from there, man.
Yeah, so, Paul Lusk was the main recruiter for me, on the AAU circuit and all of that. Coach Painter was actually good friends with my high school basketball coach. So going through, I was really getting recruited by a lot of mid-major schools. And then I had a really good tournament in Indianapolis one time, and some Big Ten schools started to come. I had an offer from Iowa. I visited Indiana, Ohio State, and then I went to Ball State and other places like that. But just when I went to Purdue and, met with Coach Painter, met with Coach Lusk, went to the game, the players, I knew that it was where I wanted to go. And when that offer came, it was pretty much a no-brainer to me. I knew I had a chance to play right away, which was big. And then just the relationship and how much Coach Painter cared, obviously, about Purdue and about winning, but he wanted the best for, every one of his players.
Before we keep going, Chris, would you talk about an AAU game that went down in Fort Wayne at the Speed Center between the SYF players and Indiana Elite before we get into your college career?
I think each one more was the one that kind of won the game for SYF. There was this scrub that was on the team.
Each one in Tyrone Appleton.
This lanky, long-haired scrub that ended up actually going to Purdue. That he was decent too, but I think each one won the game. So
why were y'all playing? What AAU?
So each one played up. So Kramer's senior year, we were playing 17 and unders, and came to play, you could say.
Who was on your team, Kramer?
A bunch of mid-major guys. I don't know if you know anybody, to be honest.
And so you were doing
John Workman.
John Workman went to Iowa, but then I don't know whatever happened to John Workman after that.
And Ryan Lightfoot was on your team.
Yeah, Ryan Lightfoot, Luke Smith. Ryan Lightfoot went to Bethel.
Tyler Brown on that team from Penn?
Who?
Tyler Brown from Penn?
No.
No, you didn't put it. Okay. Yeah, long story short, championship game, Speeds Fieldhouse. That's why I've got it done.
Well, we talked last time, and Jawan's team absolutely dominated each one of Robbie's team. So
the best part about that was what our coach said to us after the game, because we were playing, we lost, and literally he put us in the corner of this gym at Warren Central High School, and was all of Jawan's team was still there, and he literally was screaming. He's like, "You guys lost to them." And he pointed at them they were the sophomore team. They've got got beasts. They got Matt Howard, Juwan Johnson.
It's like when we lost to Wofford.
It was worse. It was like worse than losing to Wofford, according to our coach.
So Kramer, you had a pretty good AAU experience then for the most part. I mean, what was – because I'm not really familiar with the AAU circuit these days, but, I mean, overall, a good experience. I mean, I had a great experience. You as well?
Yeah, it was, it was a lot of fun, just traveling to all these tournaments. I had some problems because I played baseball.
Right. I was going to talk about the several sports you played in high school too.
Yeah, so I played baseball, but if there was a huge AAU tournament and we happened to play on that Saturday, most of the time my high school baseball coach would let me just skip the baseball game and go play because he knew that that's what I was going to do at the next level. And so he respected that and just let me go there to try to get the best opportunity for myself that I could.
Did you know that? Did you know that though?
I did. Yeah. I mean, I played football. I was a pretty good football player. I was getting recruited, but my high school football coach, I told him from the jump, like, this isn't for me. I can go out here and play in Little Huntington, Indiana, but I might be a good athlete in Huntington, Indiana, but going to, say, the Big Ten or anywhere else, I'd be below average. And so, I just knew what I wanted to do. And, I loved basketball from such a young age.
I think knowing you and honestly with most of Purdue knowing you as well, right? I have a hard time hearing that from you. I mean, that's a pretty you really understood yourself at that point, which is pretty impressive. But at the same time, like it's almost like I feel like you could have been pretty successful at baseball or football, So yeah, it's interesting.
I would say I witnessed Kramer hit a softball in an intramural game into like White County. Like one of those softballs that like when you hit it hard, it like deadens. There's no fences on the fields. This man hit a homer that probably still has not landed. Like it was incredible.
Great. So so when you're talking about your visit, you came to Purdue. Did you do like a Friday, Sunday, a Friday, Saturday? You went to a game. Who'd you stay with? That whole thing.
So actually, what happened was I actually had a football game Friday night. So I think we played whoever. I don't know. I think we might have played like Kokomo or something. And then we left after the game and came to Purdue and got there late, stayed in the hotel. And then I think Saturday is when I went to open gym and I was just beat up. I couldn't even play. And then we went to like the football game. And then that's when I was my host was none other than the key, Chris Hartley.
And what was your experience? Like, I know we kept it pretty chill, right?
Yeah, I mean, it was chill. Yeah.
At that point, Kramer, you came in, and this isn't even talking about when you came on campus, because we'll get to that next. But like that time when you were on campus, we were. I think at that point we were playing 4-on-5 basketball, right? I was guarding the center, I was guarding the point guard. We were in such an interesting place, and with a high character person like you, which is absolutely what Purdue's produced or had ever since you came in. Let's just throw it out there, right? I can't imagine what went through your head. Even Robbie said he talks about the time with Gordon Watt on his visit. Kramer, you were there.
I think you were there, right?
Welcome to the Big Ten.
Oh, man.
Welcome to the Big Ten, right?
Never going to
I thought 100%. I said, there's no way this guy's coming here.
No.
There's no way.
That's what I said, too.
So I mean, Chris, it's almost like, think about the sales pitch that Coach Lusk and Painter had to put on. I think that talks a lot about what change you saw, what opportunity to play for sure. I think that's what was important. But man, you saw a really somewhat toxic environment. Not that we weren't down to play or arguing with coaches. It wasn't like that. We just had people getting in trouble left and right. People not able to adapt to Big Ten basketball and everything in between. So that's pretty cool. I actually never even thought about that. And what about when you came that summer before, right?
Yeah.
Did you take summer classes?
Yeah.
Get started early. Okay. Did you live with Keaton?
Yeah. So it was just Keaton and I. It was Keaton and I.
Right.
And then we stayed down. I think we're like
you were down in the levee, right?
The levee, by I think what's down there now.
Ice cream place.
Yeah. Above that. Yeah.
Yeah, and so I remember you guys staying together. We spent a ton of time that summer. Obviously, there's just tons of basketball going on, but it was you and Keaton, you specifically were when you guys came on campus the previous year, similar to Robbie and the guys. You were just, from my perspective, right? I'm more of like I was more of a coach than a player, right? Like if I wanted time, I knew what I had to do, and I got the time for 2 years, right? But when I saw you guys, it's like when I saw Robbie, when I saw you, I was like, I'm going to pick those guys and pick up, on their visit. Same thing with you, and even that summer, right? I mean, pick Kramer, pick Keaton, pick Carl. Like these were the picks because you knew that was more or less going to drive us through to the new beginnings. And so, like when you came on, like when you stepped foot on campus. We went through conditioning and those things, right? I don't think you really struggled much with conditioning other than you had a lot of shin problems and those kind of things, right? And the body had to adjust probably from all the sports and whatnot to like focusing on one thing. Like talk about some ups, maybe some downs really of coming in and going through that process the first 2-3 months of school.
Yeah, but to rewind just a second, I saw a little bit of light when I knew I was coming. Carl and David both had torn their ACLs and knew they would be coming back and they would be healthy. Right. So that would obviously, change the dynamic of how it was the year before I got there. So I definitely saw that, and Coach Painter definitely, voiced that. Because, Teague was dynamic. Carl was just, if he got that booty on you, there was no getting around him. And he could score. He was, just a beast. I saw that. But, adapting, I think I missed the mile my first 2 years, actually, I think. The first year I missed it, I think, by like 1 or 2 seconds. And then my sophomore year, Rob's like, we have to run it in, 5 minutes? This guy comes out the gates like Usain Bolt. And I'm like, I can stay with Rob. Man, about 800 meters in, I was like, whew. This guy's running like a 4-minute mile.
Known better. Papua, Indiana.
Man. So I think that was the hardest part, adjusting to that. Just, I've never been a long distance guy. Not that a mile is like anything crazy, but just to build up that stamina and, know how fast I had to go.
You had some severe shin splints, bro. Like I remember we were right next to each other's lockers. You and I were brothers. Like no, I mean you had body transitions, right? Yeah. I don't know if you had that like sophomore, junior, senior year, right? We'll get into that, but like that first year, that body wasn't like.
Yeah, my body was the ringer. I mean, so that first year is when I was actually diagnosed with compartment syndrome. So I didn't have surgery until going into my sophomore year, and I had surgery twice on both legs. I remember just trying to push through, and we were running that wood chip path kind of around the wreck and all the way around. And that little decline right there, I had like slap foot, no control, just bop, 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 and rolled down the hill. And just happened the trainers were circling us, and they stopped and picked me up. And like, what the hell is going on? And I was like, I wish I had any idea. And then they tested me for compartment syndrome, and I tested positive. And, So my whole freshman year, really, I think I practiced maybe 2 or 3 times a week. Like I would sit out days of practice because I physically couldn't go. And then would still start the next day, on whatever days we were playing, which as a freshman I was like, is this real life? Like, I was really surprised. I was grateful. But, that summer is when Coach Painter and Conzo Martin came to me and were like, if you want to play, you're going to have to be a lockdown defender. So Conzo or Coach Martin and T kind of took me under their wing and just like, this is what we got to do. I would guard Teague every day in open gym, whatever. And, just that like kind of set the foundation for how my career went, those next, 3-4 years from there.
Chris, with compartment syndrome, I feel like I remember hearing, I think it was Jeff Stein talk about this. Isn't it, and correct me if I'm wrong, isn't it like in your shins, if you were to shake up a pop and you've got all this pressure that's built up, then the surgery was like that can's just getting opened and it just alleviates? Is that kind of what you have?
Yeah, correct. So like basically around your leg, there's like this fascia around the muscle. So when I would run, when I would exert energy, my muscle would expand and it would be too tight. So they had to go in and actually like cut the fascia so it would grow back to be, bigger. And, the first time it didn't work. But I do remember after the first surgery, I was maybe 7 or 8 weeks post-surgery, and I've never been more athletic. Like I was just
hammering on people.
I was dunking on Robbie all the time that summer.
Who was it, man? Freshman year, who was it? Me. I got dunked on more than anybody in the country that year.
But after that, everything got a lot better. But
Robin Davis just asked a question. She said something. My daughter would play until she couldn't feel the bottom half of her legs. You too? Practically.
I mean, really, like until I couldn't control my feet.
Yeah, that was crazy because you sat out a lot, and that's what I remember. With multiple things. Hell, I think I even remember migraines from you, Chris. I mean, I don't. Maybe that there was so much going on, but I remember Teague had to sit out. Right, he was still going through that.
Yeah.
Carl, right? Practices were like basically, me as because I had the green light because I was on the other team, and me versus some leftover starters. I mean, like it was like who was practicing today, and of course Konza would just pick on everyone, and there'd be you, Teague, and Carl on the bikes, and he would just be roasting everyone and anyone. So it was a fun time. But we went. So let's talk about a little bit of the freshman year. We went to Maui. I really think we were. If I had to break down that year, I don't remember many down times, like losing like 4 games in a row or anything like that. We had a pretty good Big Ten season. We had to win one of the games of the Big Ten tournament to make the tournament, NCAA tournament that is. We did well in Maui. We played a lot of pros in Maui, but like, what do you remember most about the freshman year outside of injuries and everything else?
I do remember going to Maui. That was. I think that first game we played Georgia Tech with Jarvis Crittenden, who eventually got into a gambling problem with Gilbert Arenas in the Wizards locker room and pulled guns on each other.
Good player though, he could hoop.
He was a beast.
He's coming to that team too, right?
And we actually lost by a good 15 plus points.
Was Daddy Young on that team too?
Actually, I think he was.
He was. Daddy's Young can ball. He's good.
Yeah. And they had another guard who was really good too, besides Jarvis.
And if you think about it, we're off of the previous season of not doing anything, right? Mm-hmm. So coming into that new team, lots of momentum we were trying to build. That was our first game against pros, right? Yeah.
So I think, we lost that game. I actually got hurt that game. I tore my PCL. The next 2 games we actually won. But
Oklahoma, DePaul.
We played Oklahoma with Blake Griffin in Madison Square Garden, I believe.
That was
the following
year.
Okay. Oklahoma, when we played them in Maui, still was top 15. They had a great year that year, and then
Willie Warren and Tony Crockett.
Yeah, we beat them by like 3.
Yeah.
And then we played DePaul, and the Constellation Championship as well. They had Wilson Chandler.
Yeah, too. They're good.
And we beat them by 12. So, yeah, that was good.
Yeah, that was good. I think, obviously, the Big Ten ACC Challenge, I think Terrence hit a floater to beat Virginia, I believe.
Yeah.
I remember those battles with Ohio State just because I grew up with those guys, Mike Conley and Greg Oden. I think those games were always very close.
Do you think if you were to ask the outside world about your freshman year, they'd say, what is the most memorable moment of Chris Kramer? Would they say the shooting from the knees in the NCAA tournament, or would it be something else? And what would it be if it was something else?
Man, I have no idea. I think that would be something that people would remember.
Freshman year. Freshman year.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say that's what it would be.
What was your biggest game in Big Ten that year? We were 10-6, 11-5. We were not bad at all, and we were the only team that gave Ohio State 3 good runs. I think we lost all three of those games by a total of 4 points.
Yeah, honestly, I don't really remember how I played, to be honest. In the Big Ten, I do remember playing pretty well in the NCAA tournament against Arizona and against Florida. Against Florida, guarding, I think we went small essentially. Carl as the 5, I was the 4. I was guarding Joakim Noah, Maurice Spates. Every once in a while, if something happened, I would get put on Al Horford. If something crazy happened, that was interesting. But I remember the one thing I do remember about that game is we were playing unbelievable, and then I think Maurice Spates came in the game and changed the game because we couldn't really guard him.
Wait, hold on. Maurice Spates played at Florida?
These are 6 man.
Oh, my God. I always miss that story then. Okay.
Yeah. He came in and changed the game and got them rolling a little bit. And then Al Horford and all the other guys kind of brought them home.
I think we were up 7 with 9 minutes left or something like that, right?
I remember boxing out Joakim Noah and him trying to jump over my back, and I just undercut him and just threw him to the ground. But
yeah, it was a physical game. I know that, obviously when it comes down to, when you get in the Big Ten season, obviously you get down to 8 players, right?
Yeah.
So Jordan Watt was the 4, and we didn't want to sub out. We didn't want to sub Dan or Jonathan in for the most part. Let's just be honest.
Yeah.
So if you or I or someone else had to play 4, you're just going in and you're just wrecking shit, right? Yeah.
I will say Corey Brewer always said that was their toughest game by far in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah.
Because they beat Ohio State in the championship.
But I think we were very well prepared for what they wanted to do. We were able to take them out of some stuff. But then eventually the pros took over and they did what they did and why they're still playing and making.
So then from that freshman year, right? We get done with the season. We blew that lead. Let's just call it what it is. But lots of pros on that team. Even the point guard went pro for a little bit. You get back on campus. We go, Carl, Dave, and I. You've had a lot of success, and talk to us about the transition into the next year, the next summer, and then with Robbie and the guys coming on, right? Talk to us before they came on, that transition and into March, April, May, June, July, and then when they get on campus.
Rob, nice cup, man.
An honor.
He just said the fact
down.
Yeah, RIP. I do remember after the season ended and we had, some of those workouts before school ended.
Yeah.
Coach Martin would always be like, do you know who's coming through those doors? Do you know who's coming down there next year?
He's such a high.
We knew, we knew what we were getting. And he was trying to motivate us like that. But we knew from day one that, they were going to come in, they were going to play, and they were going to be the core of our team. We were going to rely heavily on them as freshmen. We knew that. So, we just tried to get as better as we could.
And when they got there in the summer workouts, because a lot of that's like the weights and the open gyms, I didn't have any exposure to that. The exposure I had, honestly, and we don't need to get into it, but my open gym experience in the summer times with what I was dealt with, for the most part, from a player perspective, was all fighting. So I'm sure that you had a different approach, Chris, as a leader of the team, and with the new class coming in, probably was like, let's get better as a team and let's build something. But talk about that.
There's always going to be fights, especially over the score, over a foul, especially when you get to game point and stuff like that. It's just part of being competitive. I think a lot of that really happened when Lewis came. We actually had a lot more fights there. He was very chippy. But that year with Robbie, I think the weights, maybe not for you, Rob, but for each one, was a killer.
My stomach hurt for like a month from doing it, like core stuff. I'd never done any of that stuff before.
I remember each one was just
– it was hard, but it was tough for them for sure.
Yeah. Each one was walking around like straight leg, like he wasn't moving naturally at all. And then Juwan just being, because at this point we had Greg Lehman, and honestly, we're still doing football stuff. Let's be real.
Yeah.
We're in here. Let's get, let's do, 450 on bench and rep it out. We're trying to max out here. We're not.
Sure.
Move the work here. Which probably
I only remember some of the change of you had no exposure to it, but you still had a little bit because he was still trying to transition into something else. It was so bad, dude. It broke down everyone's body.
Yeah. And I think honestly, that's been the biggest change for Purdue, is getting out of that and transitioning into the science-based, we need to be lean, we need to still be strong, but we don't need to be out here and just be,
right,
like a football player. I don't need to be built like a brick house. I can still be strong, I can still be lean, I can still move, have fluidity, and still keep my quickness and my athleticism too, without being, too heavy and gaining all the weight from just adding all that muscle. And that's something that I think really could have been a factor in, the injuries that happened for Purdue basketball.
I agree. Even your injuries, right?
I mean, nobody will ever know, but I mean,
right.
I would say it's definitely a contributing factor, 100%.
I will say though, when we played Louisville your sophomore year, my freshman year, and those dudes came out, they were built like some football players now. Terrence Williams,
he's a freak,
Dude,
God touched him on the head and said, you're just going to be – he was just – yeah.
It was like, what strength program are these dudes on? They were huge. Earl Clark, and, man, they were grown-ass men.
Jerry Smith.
So, what things do you remember about that sophomore year? Chris
that summer. Now, he was also shooting the most shots, but Gordon Watt was like a summertime All-American beast. Like, he'd bring the water jug in, and he would just house those, and he would just work out all day. I mean, his work ethic was unquestionably phenomenal. Now, he had some other issues that kind of led to his demise, I guess, at Purdue. But, man, that dude, he worked on his game, and I give him credit for that, but he took some Kobe Bryant-like shots. So it was mostly like if you were on Gordon's team, it was just kind of like embrace your role, play winning, like, make the right play when it comes to you, crash the glass. And then when you were on other people's teams, you could kind of be more like offensive threat. But I just remember walking back to Hilltop where we were all living, and it was fun because it was like, CK, you were with you and Chad, or you and Reed, or you were by yourself?
I think I was by myself, or was it?
You were by yourself. Suter was with C. Reed, and it was JJ and Scott and me and Etuan. I remember walking back there and being like, dude, I feel like I can hardly walk to my apartment. Like, my body hurts so bad. My stomach is killing me from doing those TRX bands. I was like, dude, I can't move. And I know Etuan was probably worse than me, and Scott was hurting too. And JJ was like, for the first month, it was just trying to like get caught up on that. And then after that, I just remember thinking like, all right, my only goal here is I'm going to try to win every open gym game. And if I don't win, I want to be the guy that gets picked up, to play and have to sit. So, But we were lucky because Chris and Keaton were two really, really positive influences on us. Like both those guys had played meaningful minutes, were good guys. They weren't like, some upperclassmen sometimes they'll see some guys come in and they're like, I don't want to help him. I want to play. And that was never the case with those two guys. They wanted to win. So it was one of those deals where I think they were secure enough in their abilities and they knew they were going to play as well. But it was one of those deals where it wasn't like, hey, let's beat these guys down. It was let's help them out. Let's get them through this.
Yeah, that's funny because actually for me, when I came in my freshman year, I lived with C. Lutz.
Okay. Yeah, that's an interesting one.
And obviously I ended up taking those minutes from him. And he honestly, like, it was the most awkward year ever. Like, let's just be real. I mean, walking back after a game or after practice, whatever, and he's just like, not trying to talk to me at all, not trying to help me. Can I like move? Like, can I get somebody else to live with? This is terrible.
You guys were in the dorm together or off campus?
Yeah, in Cary.
Got it. Wow.
Yeah, it was terrible.
He didn't hit the GPA thing. That's why I forget.
Yeah, and then obviously he ended up transferring that next year when they came in. But, all I wanted to do was help them any way I could. Obviously, Robbie, each one, Jawan, like I said, we knew we're going to be an integral part of our team.
Right.
We need them to be as comfortable. We needed them to get acclimated as quickly as they can so they can, they're used to all of this. Then they can do what they do. We don't need them to start feeling like trash all the way, because your freshman, you definitely hit that wall at some point. It's inevitable. Going through all those practices, all of that stuff, it's just so new to you no matter what. You're going to find a place where you have no legs, maybe in December, maybe in January, where you have to kind of find some way to reboot and, just keep pushing, and then everything will get better. But for everybody, there's going to be that, let's say, a slump, or you're definitely going to hit that wall.
Yeah. So Robbie and them, they talked about their freshman year and the slump that you guys had. They always talk about, the turnaround around Big Ten. But what was it for you, Chris? Like, as far as like a moment that sophomore year where, because as I envision it, I think as most people envision it, that was the turning point for the next 3 years, right? So what was it to you that fall or that winter break or whatever that changed things?
You know what changed things? Like, honestly, like, I think we thought we were pretty good. Like, maybe we didn't win as many games we should have at the beginning. But when we lost to Watford, was that the first year?
Yeah.
Yeah. When we lost to Watford, we fly to Vegas basically that next day. And I'm talking about we play, this is say, I don't even know what day it is. Say we arrive on Friday. We have the hardest practice of the year, Friday night, play Saturday. We're doing drills, throwing you the ball. You have to, like, I'm running. Just
hold on. I think,
boom.
Isn't it? I do agree with you, but if I remember correctly, we land. We hadn't eaten dinner. We weren't able to practice that night. Now, we did have the hardest practice the next day. Do you remember what happened? We were watching film in the hotel, and that freak windstorm came up, and it was a sandstorm.
Yeah.
I swear to God, it was an act of God, because Coach Kramer was going to kill us.
Yeah,
he was literally going to kill us. And it knocked the power out at the gym. We were going to practice that. And we I remember people were hungry. We had just gotten off the plane. We were watching film in his room. It sounded like a helicopter was outside of our room. It was really a sandstorm. And thank God, because he was gonna murder us. Now the next day is the practice you're talking about. Yeah. And we were doing like the 5-round-1 charge drill, and he was pissed.
Yeah.
He was really pissed.
But rightfully so. We had no business to lose to them. But I think then we played that next day, and I think Keaton or Terrence is late for the bus, so they don't even play.
So, yeah, it was a miracle we beat Missouri State.
So
I will say too, I think the turning point was kind of like after we got back, we found a way to win that game.
Yep.
And we were in the dorms. We were living in that hotel, and that hotel called out by Walmart. And Scott quit the team. Like, Scott just left.
Wow.
Well, yeah, Scott went home and never came back. But then he came back at one point for like a day.
He was like quit, and then we were playing that Florida International team with Alex Galindo that transferred from Kansas.
Yeah.
We were losing 17-0 with 10 minutes to go in the first. We hadn't scored. It was 17-0. And we ended up I remember Jawan got to the free throw line with 8:50 to play in the first half, and he missed a 1-and-1 on the front end. So we still had 0 points. And it was like we knew we were going to win that game, but we couldn't score. You're 12 minutes into a college basketball game, you have 0 points. That's pretty humbling.
Wow.
And we came back and found a way to win. And after that, it was just we beat Michigan, and all of a sudden we were a different team. It was so crazy.
But I think too, I say this every year when people are really hard on Purdue, at the beginning of the season, how they do. That Christmas break is definitely a turning point. The season can either go one way or the other, I feel like.
Totally.
And, you have a lot of practice. You don't have any class. You can really just focus back on basketball and getting your team to be – you obviously have a lot more time together as well. But getting everybody on the same page, getting healthy, and then grinding out those games and grinding out those practices, because you're going into Big Ten where everything is a lot more structured in the Big Ten. You know what they're going to do. There's so much more film watching, let's say. The tendencies of all these players. There's the big board. You get the scouting report with, what they want to do, what they're good at. Then you watch film, you go over the plays, you learn how you're going to stop those plays and how to score on them offensively. So I think
Chris, I got a question for you real quick. I mean, so that there was a turning point. Those are some pretty good stories, actually. You mentioned Zoe and Teague and you and even myself, we spent a lot of time together getting as much as we could out of you that first year. I mean, but now you're going to sophomore year. I mean, do you have a deeper relationship with Painter at that point? Are you guys – how close are you guys? I mean, it's sounds like some turmoil going on, but I mean, it's not like Matt Painter can say, hey, Chris Kramer, go try harder. I mean, that doesn't sound like that's something that would ever be said. So, talk to me about, some back office kind of conversations even before that time. Really, what's going on? Anything that you can remember?
I think he trusted me. And, I think I was actually a captain as a sophomore, I believe.
Interesting. Okay.
And, it was just kind of especially after Watford and all of that, it's how do we not let this happen again?
But is it
you can't say that we were comfortable.
But who underperformed? Who underperformed in these games? Right?
I mean, it wasn't just one person. It's not we relied on any one person. I mean, obviously, Jawan, each one, and Robbie were, our three-headed monster, let's say. And then everyone else kind of, filled the rest of those roles that we had. But it just came down to, for us, just not turning the basketball over. And trying to rebound the best we could. We were never good
that year. We
couldn't rebound.
Yeah.
And we would still turn it over, 20 times a game. So we would lose so many more possessions. And if we didn't shoot the ball well, we were putting ourselves in a really tough spot just because we couldn't physically rebound.
And I think you guys understand what I'm getting at. I'm trying to get kind of that, hey, I'm the CEO. Hey, I kind of got my trusted people that have been with me for at least a little bit of time, and I got some new people that I trust in too. But what's the deal? I think I'm just trying to get was there expectations on you to do more, or was it actually you, Chris? Because I know you, and you and Keaton are on many talents where you can score, you can play, you can do this. But were you actually kind of passing the ball too much, and then you pass into freshmen? Okay, do I shoot? Was it kind of weird?
No,
What was there? Were the roles established? Was it like, or and if they were they too much for maybe Robbie and each one at that point, or when were you giving up too much and Keaton giving up too much? I'm trying to figure out how does it get off that bad? It's hard for Purdue to think how that could happen.
Yeah. But I mean, I don't know. I think it was just a little bit of everything. I mean, we were adapting to new rules, obviously, myself and Keaton. And we had to try to get Robbie, Juwan, and Etuan the ball in positions where they could be successful. And running the motion offense is what we did a lot of the times. Yeah, we had some set plays, but if we didn't run a good motion, set good screens, whatever, we weren't going to get open. We'd end up taking a bad shot or turning it over. So I think it was more so on everybody, but I think he definitely put a little bit of pressure on me, not on an offensive type of thing, but on like a defensive, like this is what we really need you to do. Go up, especially with Keaton and not myself. We could both go up there and jam the ball, put pressure, and kind of change the game that way for us. And then offensively, we have to be better. He always talked about like two ships passing in the night when we're setting screens. We're not hitting anybody. Nobody's getting open. But when I would watch, if there's a game on like Big Ten Classics or something, just like looking at myself to like how I would play now, there were so many times where I would be like open and I wouldn't even think about it.
Right.
That was the role that I was playing at that time. And just, looking back, like, dude, shoot it, But I knew what what my role was. I knew what I was supposed to do. And I kind of stayed in that. And obviously we won a bunch of games, so, it didn't really matter. But,
right.
It was kind of on myself that I didn't, progress. I didn't work on my weaknesses as much as I could have to kind of grow my role each year from the offensive side, as well as being, the leader of the defense.
I will say with Coach Painter, the one thing that he does do like really well is he does a great job at telling you what your role is. Absolutely. And every year you've got the meeting. And sometimes after a loss or after a game where you play like crap. And he gets everybody in there and he gets that big whiteboard up there and he writes everybody's name and everybody's role. He literally defines your role on that whiteboard. And I think that there's literally no confusion. Like, and it can be humbling for some of these guys. There were some meetings where it was like guys didn't like what they heard. But at the end of the day, he's going to tell you what you need to do for Purdue to be successful. And that's his job. It's like you said, the CEO. But yeah. I don't think we weren't struggling because of that. We were struggling because we weren't rebounding. We weren't making shots. And then a flip or a switch just got kind of flipped. Yeah. And all of a sudden we're making a lot of shots. And winning is also super contagious. Like, we get off to a start where we win our first like 10 out of 11 Big Ten games. And it's just like you don't feel like you're ever going to lose again, Yeah. It kind of snowballs. It can go the other way too. You can lose 10 games in a row and be like, we're never going to win again. And unfortunately, you do deal with situations like that as well. So it's kind of a contagious deal, I think.
What were the moments, Chris, that strike out to you your junior and senior year? Like, wrap those up for us. I mean, was everything just like – I think most people think that, they probably think that most of Chris Kramer's career at Purdue was obviously you're a legend. You are the way you played is unlike anything Purdue's seen. I would say, though, that, it was just smooth sailing. Right. You were part of a lot of successful teams and there wasn't really a down moment. You didn't have a big injury. How do you see it? How do you see like the last couple years for you? I mean, I think we're a top 10 team the whole time. Like, explain it.
Yeah, I think I was very fortunate. Obviously being like the first class that Coach Painter really recruited.
Yeah.
We weeded out Dan Vander Veeren and then Jonathan Uchendu. And, he started getting guys that would commit to what he wanted, commit to Purdue, the way we were going to play. And he's got guys that just good guys that came in that wanted to win, that would play hard and buy into what he wanted to do. So I was very fortunate for that. When you get Robbie, Eachwan, and Jawan coming through those doors, going into your sophomore year, you're going to win a lot of games.
Yeah.
And the sophomore year, we had some bumps along the road getting to the Big Ten season. But once we got there, it was like, we're pretty good.
But now you're a captain again, and now you're a captain again, right? So junior and senior year, like you're bringing in the same good talent. You don't have to worry about them. They can take feedback. I mean, it's almost like, you're one of the people on the management team that's just kind of just letting the ship go, right?
Yeah, you don't have to worry about it, but the pressure is there. You have to perform at that level or exceed it. If we would have came out and we would have, had a terrible year, Coach Painter could have got fired. I mean, it just snowballs from there. And
was the pressure worse on you specifically later in your career than it was early on?
Early on, I didn't. It's like my freshman year. It was just go out there, play as hard as you can, play as hard of defense. Everything you do offensively is like a bonus. I had a little bit more green light maybe my freshman year than I did the last 3 years, to be honest. Which is fine. I mean, we were successful that first year. I played really well those last 2 games in the tournament my freshman year, and then it just kind of changed going in. But like I said, I knew that was going to happen. We knew that Robbie, Jawan, and Eachwan were going to take a bulk of our shots, and we knew that they were going to essentially, lead us to victory or not from an offensive standpoint. We would be able to defensively. We were going to hold teams to around 50 points. We weren't going to turn the basketball over. We were always going to have a chance, even if we didn't play well offensively. But those guys were going to be the ones that led us. So the pressure on me was like more on a defensive standpoint, guarding Evan Turner, guarding Eric Gordon, guarding Steph Curry, guarding those type of guys, not letting them go off, which some of them did, and we ended up losing, and, that's another story. But, that was that pressure that I had on myself to go guard the best offensive player and, essentially try to shut them down or keep them, high volume of shots with, low makes.
Did you have a favorite year? Because I've thought about this too, and what you just said is
great question.
Like, freshman year for me, your sophomore year, there was like, we needed to make the tournament, but the expectations weren't super high. Like, it was like, okay, keep this where it was. We're really young. And I think that's what made that year so fun, because all of a sudden you're like, you're not expecting to almost win the Big Ten and go 15-3. Then you talk about sophomore year, or my sophomore year, your junior year, my junior year, your senior year. Now there's legitimate expectations. And by the time we get to like your senior year, it's like Final Four expectations. So to me, I always thought, I think my most fun year was freshman year. I'm curious to hear what yours was.
No, I think my sophomore year was definitely fun from that aspect as well, where there literally wasn't any expectations. We knew what we had in our locker room. We knew the potential we had, but nobody else around the country really saw it. So we had to go out there and show it. If we played well, great. If we didn't, people are like, their top 5 guys are, freshmen and sophomores.
Right.
The future is bright, but, there's none of that pressure that we had. Definitely your junior year, or my junior year, and then definitely my senior year. People are talking national championship, Final Four, all of these things before you get hurt. We're definitely one of the top 2, 3 teams, 4 teams in the country, with hands down, no question.
Yep.
But that obviously changed, unfortunately.
We're gonna stay a little bit on later, if that's okay, since we started a little later. I just want to make sure we're okay with that. We good with that, Chris?
That's fine. We definitely started a little bit later.
Because you brought it up real quick, Hart.
Yeah, because I got a hard question before we transition overseas.
You talked about how your role was to guard the best player, and I think I know what the answer is going to be from you. But who in your time? We'll stay in the Big Ten because Steph Curry is a different animal. But who was the toughest guy to guard in the Big Ten?
I'll say two guys. Eric Gordon, the first when we played them at IU, because literally you could not touch him.
Couldn't touch him. He literally breathed on him.
It was like guarding LeBron right now, you know. But then Evan Turner, those last years when he was playing point guard, and he would literally run 4, 5, 6 ball screens a possession, and you're trying to. This is before we started going under and making him shoot. We would go over and go over, and we'd really play to his strengths.
Right.
But until we finally started going under, guarding him was definitely tough because he was so long, so skilled.
Pretty good handle too for his size. It was funny when you and I watched that Big Ten tournament game, and like you tried him, I tried him, and I should not have been guarding him at all.
You played good defense on John D.
He's just getting to the basket every time. It's like, man, just freaking go under. Like, what are we doing?
Your defense on John Diebler, though, in that Big Ten championship game was.
Oh, well, we were reliving that. I was like, God, James should have taken me out of the game. I suck. Liability, man. That and Lasterius Dunn would be the other guy that the other game where I was going the wrong way.
I got one for you, Chris. Since Robbie and I are just taking this opportunity to just go back and forth with some hard questions that we definitely did not prepare. Where do you rank in Purdue sports? Actually, where do you rank in Purdue basketball? I mean, it's not really a question to put you on the spot, but you know, and it's not about like either wins. It's about everything. It's about wins. It's about championships. It's about being a captain multiple times. It's about how you were viewed on and off the court, right? You know, not that you think about that, but, you know, a lot of the students at Purdue may not know who Chris Kramer is, right?
I'm a has-been, man.
Yeah, but you got to be up there, right? I mean, you got to think of yourself, and I think, in my opinion, I've looked at it. I'm just trying to create my own rankings, and obviously, if you play with someone and you think about it, it's a little bit differently, right? But do you ever think about that? You think you're, you know, do you hear from people that say you're not just a legend, but like, you know, like do you consider yourself higher up and have done more accomplished than even Carl, right? Like. And that's a real question. Do you ever think about those things?
Honestly, I've never thought about it, to be honest. You know, just to spitball here off the top of my head. I mean, obviously, I won a lot of games. You know, I was on the all defensive team 4 years. I won 2 Big Ten defensive player of the years. We won a Big Ten championship, a Big Ten tournament. Went to the NCAA tournament. All 4 years.
That right there, Chris. Most people at Purdue, when we launch this event, they don't know those accolades, right? And those are pretty important accolades. Even being a captain, how many years?
3-year captain, yeah.
3-year captain.
Set the record, I think, Purdue record for steals in a career. I mean, all of that stuff is. You know, it doesn't matter, to be honest. I mean, I don't care where I rank. All that matters is, you know, we have 2 banners hanging up there that nobody can ever take away.
Yeah.
Can I answer this question? Because I think when I think of Chris.
Yeah, Robbie, I'd love you to answer the question.
I think of him.
You have the most, you know, like history at Purdue. Like you're the historian. I'm going to call you that, right? So what is the answer?
Well, I just think like what Chris just said, like you first think like winner, like was able to carry on from his freshman year where the program was turned around and he wins at a high level throughout his 4 years. an elite defender, especially off the ball. I think Chris is one of the best defenders the conference has seen in like the Big Ten Network era. So that'd be like 07 to today, especially on guys off the basketball. Like Drew Neitzel might still have nightmares with this dude, and he should, because what he did to him at Mackey Arena my freshman year was incredible. Just totally punking him off screens. He wanted no part of it. Like, so I think in terms of chasing, like we talked about, John Deaver was torching me. We should have had Chris guard him, but we needed him to guard like Evan Turner and stuff. But that would have been like where he'd eat people up. And then I also always thought that Chris was a guy that he just had like spectacular moments. Like you talk about the shot from his knees against Arizona, or like I think of the Manny Harris, my sophomore year, his junior year. Manny Harris hits him in the face with an elbow and breaks his nose. And honestly, when it happened, I was not sure he even hit Chris, because I was on the bench and it didn't look like there was contact, but clearly he's bleeding. So I was like, shit, he like cut himself while he was down on the like he pulled something out of his sock.
Yeah, like a wrestler.
I've never seen a crowd whipped up into like a frenzy, dude. Like it was crazy. They were ready to like literally chase Manny Harris out of the stadium. Or you talk about the Virgin Islands where Chris dives for a loose ball and slides on the floor. This dude was like the best diver. Like when we were running sprints and you need to lay out, everyone else would get like floor burns all over their arms. Kramer would literally like skid on his jersey and like be able to like make it look graceful. Like he was able to like rise to those occasions. And at the end of the day, he's just a guy that you want to play with, man. He's a great teammate. And I think what he said earlier, where he watched himself now in those old games in which he was more aggressive, shit, we do too. Because I've watched him play as a pro, and I'm like, man, like this dude, he's got a lot of game. And that's why I hope that we'll get into the pro stuff here too, but he's got a lot left in the tank. So I just am glad that I was able to play with him.
So what's pro life really been like, Chris? I mean, overall?
It's been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I mean, this is year 11, going on year 11, I believe.
That is wild.
I had my first year after Purdue, played in the G League, played in Puerto Rico that summer, and then went overseas and been overseas ever since. Spent 6 years in Germany, 2 years in Lithuania. This past year was in Moscow, Robbie's favorite city.
Kimchi.
But no, it's been a lot of fun. It's been, we've had ups and downs. I think a lot of people have a different understanding than what it really is.
Yep.
People that I talk to are like, oh, so you can go and visit here, you can go and visit here, you can go and visit here. Like, no, like we practice, like, it's not like I'm on vacation and we play a game every week. Like we get paid, we have practice maybe once, maybe twice a day. We travel maybe, depending if you play in other competitions like Euro Cup, Euro League, or Basketball Champions League. Now you can go and you play other teams in Europe, you play other teams in your country. So, we're playing, those teams like 2 times a week, in Euro League 2 or 3 times a week. So it's just it's a grind, where these coaches, their success lives on you performing, and they have, depending on what kind of coach you get, if you get, the stereotype is if you get a Serbian coach, you're going to run a lot. Practices are going to be taped. You're going to have, 2-3 hour practices, maybe morning, maybe night as well. So it just kind of depends on the situation and the league, how your experience goes. I've never had a coach like that. Very fortunate. But I definitely had some hard coaches, and it kind of made me remember, like, this is very similar to how it was in college. Like we're going, fresh in the preseason, we're going like 7-8 hours a day.
Do you look at, will you look at, and be honest, I mean, if some people are going to have really good experiences, and you have to factor in money and all that stuff, and off seasons with family. So you kind of get some things that you don't get at Purdue, right? But like good experience overseas, like it's a job. I make a lot more money now. I get time with family. If I was, let's say, if I was a Purdue assistant coach, you don't get that, right? So, do you when you go through this, when you look back at will you always say like that was great, that was awesome? Yeah, there were ups and downs, but I was already prepared for it, and like I'm good with overseas. Like it was actually positive.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wow. Cool, because I don't think a lot of people. I don't think not just like a lot of people. Like I don't even have that like knowledge. Like when I talked to Robbie, if I were to like break down our conversations about overseas, like it's a non-subject,
You're talking to the wrong
guy. Yeah. So it's like,
but two, I think some factors definitely play into how your experience goes. The players on your team,
huge, yes.
Do you like them? Is it fun to play with them? Those can be huge factors. I know in some of Robbie's situations, both of those were terrible.
Is your coach a psychopath?
Yeah, exactly. That plays a factor too. And then for Robbie too, he was over there by himself.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I have my wife, my daughter. We get to experience all this stuff together. And
that's
those
cool.
Experiences in itself.
I didn't know that either.
To go and experience these countries. Like my daughter was born in Lithuania. So those experiences that we've had, we've, gotten to travel, some just me and my wife. And then now with, our daughter, we've got to travel a little bit. We went to Rome and stuff like that. But, these experiences that we had, nobody can take away from us. It definitely changes your perception a little bit on how things are here compared to overseas. And you kind of definitely appreciate how fortunate we are here. But it's been amazing, to be honest. Obviously I've been very blessed to play college basketball and then to be able to play this long. And, hopefully I can play a few more years if the body holds up.
That's so incredible to hear, man. I think like that would actually, if a lot of Purdue and the community that, obviously the Purdue community, they don't know that sentence, right? Like they don't know that you actually have grown up and you actually can have that much, a greater perception of like, yeah, it was good for me. I got to travel. I had my kid overseas. Overseas basketball was super positive, and like it's hard to get it's hard to get updates with a lot of people's favorite players overseas too. Like the information is not easy to get. So that's awesome. That's
Chris,
really awesome.
What's your best, like, craziest European story? Because everybody's got one. Or you've been with some normal people. I was playing with psychopaths, I think. So that's probably
I mean, I've never had a story where like my teammates are fighting over like shooting the basketball at like halftime. I've never had that.
I've had that.
You've had that. I've never played with a bunch of bad guys. I'd say my rookie year might be like the
G League.
Or my rookie year overseas, my second year out. Chester Frazier, who's now I think the associate head coach at Virginia Tech, I believe.
Yeah.
He was on our team in Germany, and Bruce Weber wanted to bring him over at Kansas State to be an assistant. Middle of the season or late in the season. And this guy shows up to practice in like loafers, dress socks, and that's it. Like, he has his, some shorts and a shirt on, and he's like, it's like, bro, what are you doing? Like, you don't have basketball shoes, nothing. He's like, bro, I'm leaving. Like, what do you mean you're leaving? Like, he's like, Bruce Weber wants me to be assistant. And I was like, so you're just going to like up and leave. Like, when this is over, you can go be an assistant coach. Like everything's good. Yeah. And then just the conversation and the antics that went on, just like the unprofessionalism at the time of him and how he acted, like I've never seen anything like that before. It
Funny you
was
said
so
that.
bizarre.
John Shire did that in Gran Canaria. He was playing in Spain, and then Duke wanted him to come back, and like in April, like the playoffs were about to start, he just rolled. You're from the West, dude. I know you play for Kimki, and Russia. Maybe your experience is different than mine, but mine was crazy. Like my driver he street raced cars, and he would drive me to practice so freaking fast, and I'd be like, dude, I don't care if we're late. Like, you know how bad traffic is in Moscow. It's terrible.
Yeah.
And he'd be going down the median, like on the side of the road, going like 100 miles an hour. And I was like, Roman, like, and he didn't speak any English though. So I'm literally like
Google Translate.
Google Translate on my phone, like, dude, slow down. I don't care. Like Russia was crazy. You have to have something from Russia that happened that was wild.
There was obviously with our driver, like that's just another like whole thing. I mean,
but you can't because if you don't and you get pulled over, the Russian police are so corrupt. They're going to literally like either rob you or throw you in jail. Or you have to have one.
Exactly. But yeah, our driver was, I mean, I've never seen anything like it.
Yeah.
I mean, we're weaving in and out of traffic.
Yeah.
And in Russia, I mean, it's literally like, 2 lanes coming onto the highway, 2 more lanes, like every 100 feet. And it's just like.
And there's big cars over there. Like in Europe, you think of the small cars. The Russians, they love big American SUVs, and like there's some big ass cars over in Moscow.
Yeah. And that was crazy. I remember like, Ali telling me like when they would be going to the game, obviously where we lived in Moscow to where we played in the arena in Matishi, like with traffic, it's legitimately an hour and a half, hour 45 minutes to get there. And, they're like Google Trans, looking up the maps, like how can I beat the traffic? You can't beat the traffic,
Subway is probably the best way, honestly.
And they're trying to, weave in and out. And then it's just, that was crazy. I hated it because obviously with Sophie, we're trying to like plan. We got to go to the store. We want to go do this. We want to go do this.
Yep.
But we have to go around her nap time and stuff like that. Like I felt bad asking him to like go home for like an hour and then come back or whatever. It was like we were burdening him. But when we were literally paying him,
to
come, it was like I was messing up the time that he could have had with his family.
Right.
But, I think there was a story. We were playing Baskonia, I think, and coach started yelling at Jonas Jerebko, going off on him, and Jonas started yelling back at him, and coach was like, "Go sit down. We don't need you." And Jonas looked at him and said, "We don't need you. Like, we'll be better without you."
That's awesome.
And he, they send him like a letter. It's like, next time you're going to get fined, whatever. But like,
that's so Europe right there. We will find you next time.
Exactly. They sent it to his agent and they're like, what happened? But the thing is though, literally 5 minutes after that, they were just like back to normal. Like it was nothing.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, he almost respected him more for talking reckless to him than being just, being a punk and be like, okay, yes, sir. Like going about it like that. It's like, he's like, oh, okay. Like I respect that. So
most people that I've talked to the week leading up to this, Chris, are more or less wondering what's next. Right. And, you mentioned, you hope you got a couple more years in the tank. What are you focused on right now?
It's just keeping my body at this point. Obviously I tore my ACL 2 years ago. So just trying to keep that healthy. As Robbie knows, it's like a continuous grind. There's days that, I feel unbelievable. There's days when it's cold and the pressure's high outside. I feel like complete trash. But just trying to keep my body at a level where I can play at the same level I could, before injury. But, what's next after basketball at this point, I don't know. It's something that I've tried to think about.
Are you at an inflection point right now with like offers on the table, waiting for offers, but also looking at other things? I mean, offers meaning for basketball, but other being other.
No, at this point, like I know I'm going to play. It's just a matter of where, and it's kind of a financial decision at this point almost. With COVID-19, obviously, budgets overseas with no fans and everything took a hit between 30 and 50%. So kind of the market value I had before, the jobs in that area are less just from budgets being dropped. So
would that change your mind of then wanting to go, like if it's half or whatever the percentage is, would you say like, maybe it's not worth it, or is it still just that much worth it to do it for a couple more years, even through COVID?
I don't think I could make as much money being say right now, a 32-year-old, call myself a rookie, going to work somewhere that I did, going overseas. So, at this point, that's, we can drop that money that we're looking for, and that's what we've done a little bit, but still try to be selective for a good situation, a good team with a good reputation. All that stuff obviously plays a factor, but, I'm starting to try to to see what interests me for the future, what's next. I'm going to have a meeting with one of my older friends who does insurance and kind of, see what that's about, try to do a bunch of stuff. Because obviously I would love to be a coach, but the time commitment is too much. I want to be here. I want to, see my daughter, play basketball, do whatever she wants to do. I want to be able to be there. I want to experience that with my wife and, be there for her to grow up and all of that. So, that time commitment is just something I can't do.
Well, like I told Keaton, we were talking about this, and, Keaton and I, and then you and I were talking about it a little bit. Obviously you were at a different point where Keaton was kind of already like towards the tail end, and like, do I want to be away anymore? And is the money worth it? And is the opportunity worth it? You're at a different point. You have more opportunity. But, like with Keaton Grant, like, he was like, okay, COVID's happening. Do I want to go back overseas? Not really. Am I towards the tail end? Yes. And he went out to Raphael or Raphael, and he said, hey, you got any connections for me? Because he didn't really use the Purdue Alumni Association whatsoever, ABC whatsoever, no contacts, whatever. Keaton has a different perspective of really his Purdue relationship post-basketball, which will be interesting to hear more about. But he said he reached out to him, and that one person that he reached out to him actually got him a full-time job that he's in with Eli Lilly. And so I told Keaton, I go, was that an ideal path? Because he moved from Florida. I think he lives in Virginia now. And this all happened within a month, right? Mm-hmm. Month and a half. And meaning he moved in the last month and a half. So I said, when I heard Keaton speak on our first thing, it was he wanted to move out west. He wanted to, get in California, right? I said, well, Keaton, what process did you take to go plan for that? He goes, none at all, Hart. He goes, I just realized that COVID was kind of the shutdown point for me. You're not at that point, but I would stress, and I'm telling you this because it's important, is I said, Keaton, did you write down the 50 companies you look up to, and then see where they're located and have positions, and if they were on the West Coast, which companies most people are interested in are on the West Coast, right? Whether it's Facebook or Google or whatever. I'm just making a few, right? And he didn't do that. He didn't go through a process, right? He just went to Raphael, and Raphael knew a person. Not saying that he's not going to crush it at Eli Lilly, right, in medical sales. It's not what I'm saying. But he went to Virginia, and he had to make a commitment and get into a career that maybe he didn't have as athletes like you and Rob. And I went directly into the workforce. I didn't want to play overseas, nor did at all, nor even if I had an opportunity, I would have shut it down. But it's just I'm interested to hear like what your passions are as we wrap this up, and how you're thinking about using like a lot of the Purdue alumni organization and even the alumni that are like me and others to like leverage. Do you have it? Do you not feel comfortable with it? Like, what's your perspective?
It's something I've just like started to do. Like I haven't reached out to many people. Like one of my friends he owns a big insurance company. So I just wanted to just to see like, how it is in, a day in the life kind of, learn as much about that as I can. And then I can just, go and see what other people do, like say Matt Falk I know Matt Falk, like I can reach out to Matt Falk. I know it's in marketing, all that kind of stuff. Just kind of,
Right.
Go down the list. But do I have like a list of companies that I want to contact that like I've been interested in? No, I haven't got that far. I'm just trying to see.
Or enough alumni either in the area if you want to stay in Indiana, you're close to your parents and whatnot. Like, is there a, like, cause look, dude, here's the good thing about like folks that want to stay, really anywhere they like, say your family's all in Indiana, which they are, right? You want to stay in Indiana, all good. But here's the beauty of it. Folks like you, guess what? If you wanted to go get into tech, you don't have to move out to California now, bro. You can go prove to someone that you'll work harder than most people out there, right? Tell a story and go start in marketing or start in tech sales or whatever, and you really don't have to move, right? But I think part of the Purdue for Life and Matt Folk's thing is actually creating free curriculum, part of Purdue for Life, so that you can actually start doing marketing and business curriculum now as a way to maybe leapfrog into that. So I don't know. I think it's just obviously part of RootShare is just making sure that folks, not just students, get connected to alumni and have like as many alumni conversations as possible. But there's just no way that Keaton Grant, right, should have to go to just the one basketball player to get him his one interview. And he got it, right? But like, what would have happened if he didn't? And what if happened if he would have thrown 50 other people out there and reached out to him and got maybe 10, final rounds in different spaces? I think that's obviously something, you should look into a little deeper.
Yeah,
right?
I'll definitely look into it. I mean, like I said, hopefully I have, I want to have kind of something almost in place, or like, a tentative plan, like going into like that last year, if I know that it's going to be my last year. So I can kind of transition into it. I know it's going to be a tough transition no matter what it is. When basketball has been, something I put so much effort into to be the best that I can, for so long, not doing that is going to be very different.
I mean, maybe take some time off too, and maybe that's obviously with family, and then find the job after that, dude. Like you don't need to. I would highly recommend not having that step right when you exit one to start the next. That's for sure. Don't do that.
I mean, we'll have to see how it goes. I mean, obviously, it's financial, all of that kind of stuff plays into it too, where we're at and all of that. I mean, I know my wife, wants to get back to work eventually.
Robbie, do you have any advice? Like, I mean, before we end it, I mean,
I was so fortunate, man. Like I fell into announcing basketball games by getting hurt in Milan, and that's how I got my agent. Like I got super lucky is what I had happen. But I do know that in terms of finding something that you really enjoy doing, it's really important. Like I love doing games, so and obviously I'm really fortunate I get to. You know what I mean? Like I think my situation is a little unique in that point because you're still in basketball, you get the summers off. Like it's a pretty good gig, but I just think finding something that you truly do enjoy is so important. That's easier said than done. There's so many guys that I've played with, and even myself before I kind of got into announcing, it's like, what am I going to do? All I know is play, work out. It's hard. It's really, and eventually when that thing ends, like there's a reason that you see these bands playing to their 80. Like there's an adrenaline rush to playing basketball at the pro and college level that you're never going to get again. And I think guys struggle with that. They're like, dude, it's over. Like, what do I have now?
Yeah.
And I think Chris is fortunate because he's got a great family and he's got a daughter and a great wife. And certainly, he's on the right track in terms of he's had a great playing career. And it's just that kind of seeing what's next professionally is difficult. So I feel like I struggle to give advice in that regard because I don't feel like I feel so like it was such a chance deal, like I get hurt in Milan. Big Ten Network asked me if I want to do 10 studio dates. I do them. And I'd done like the NBA's like internship program on announcing, which really helped me, I think. But I got my agent because he's a Michigan grad and he happened to be watching a halftime show I did when I was just filling in. And then he gets me on ESPN and Big Ten Network and gets me a great deal. It's like, I didn't really do anything. I just got super lucky, right?
You know what I took from that, Robbie, your best like gift you could give to anyone that's out there thinking about the next step, even to Chris, right? Like it's just that you have a confidence and you love what you're doing, right? That's just what it is. Like whether it was luck or not, it doesn't really matter. Right. That's the whole thing that I was talking to Keaton about. And I don't have a ton of those conversations, right? I'm just now going through the conversations with folks like Chris Kramer and you and everyone else. But yeah, it was luck, but at the same time, it's like good from a family perspective because we're family members, right? To know that like there's no anxiety in Robbie Hummel's life, right? Like there's
some,
yeah. Right, but it's injury, right? But at the same time, like that's what I would want specifically out of like a brother like Chris, which we play together. Like it's really been good to hear that he's been actually like happy this whole time, right? And I want him to actually continue that path. So like where some people have had a lot of different experiences, like I think the moral of Chris Kramer's story and what he can bring to Purdue University is the fact of the matter. Like the facts are, look, his attitude about and work ethic and his approach to things has always been the same since high school. And, I think that's always struck me, Chris, as your best asset. And obviously you'll find that next chapter, whether it's a year, 2 years, whatever years down the line. I'm really happy about, being a family man and doing all those great things. And I'd end on this, I'll challenge you with something, and Robbie, you can say something, and then Chris, you can end it. But I would challenge you to get integrated back with Purdue during this time, right? I think not just because of COVID, but just because your work ethic and your perspective is infectious. I really like that word that Robbie used earlier. So, and the players could use it. Hell, that team, I went to see him in March when I went back and spoke with Kramer. That team probably needed someone like you in there, right? They were 14-14 and needed to win a home game, and they still lost it, right? But during that practice that I watched with Coach Katie, they looked like a NCAA tournament team all day. So, whatever you can give back, whether it's to sports or to Painter and the team and to the school or to students, like that's what strikes me. I don't know. Robbie, what do you take away?
No, I agree. I just think that there's a lot of fulfillment there. There's a lot of people that are kind of in our shoes from when we were in college, and just to be able to give advice. And I think that's what's cool about these. You tell stories, you talk about your experiences, and it's really valuable. So I just think for Chris, it's like, it's so tough as a player when it's coming to an end. And I think the fact that you're ahead of the game. A lot of people are like, oh, I'll play for another 10 years. And it's like they're not going to,
Napoleon Dynamite, his uncle, right?
Exactly. Yeah. Uncle Rico throwing a football over the mountain. So, no, I just think that, I'm proud of you, and I'm glad we got to play together, and I'm always rooting for you, my man.
No, I appreciate both of you guys. Obviously, Hart, it's where it all began. official visit, and then
A lot of fun.
running conditioning. Where Seahawks running sprints at the end, backpedaling, and then all of that. And then Rob, yeah, we had a great 3 years. I appreciate both of you guys. I appreciate you guys setting this up so I could do this. I definitely need to get reintegrated. I mean, I talked to Coach Painter. I talked to some of the players a little bit last year during the stretch when they were struggling a little bit.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's tough as trying to give them advice. Going through such a stretch that we never experienced, and for certain guys to try to challenge them to do this and do that when it's not really their strengths, and I think the biggest thing that we had is we had a bunch of guys that wanted to win that were great leaders in their own right. Everybody led in a different way. And that was a big thing for us, but I definitely need to get reintegrated.
Yeah, maybe we'll continue talking about that. Obviously, I work with Matt very closely. A lot of things are digital on campus, but there's just we're at a really opportunistic time as people that meant a lot to the university. And I was in a fraternity, and I was in Cranert, and Cranert didn't even have me on their mailing list for over 10 years, right? But I went back and paid my own money to speak. I don't think people are asking you to do that, but I think just overall, you're right in the sweet spot to really make an impact. And it was good for people to hear your story. And I think from this is a starting point to do bigger things. So thanks for your time, Chris. It was definitely great for Robbie and I, and have a great night, and we'll talk soon. All right?
Man. Appreciate it, guys.
Thanks, guys.
Sounds good. See you guys.